Okay, everyone. Nobody's on just yet, so I'm gonna give people a chance to get on. But I'm going to first of all, I gotta make sure this fucking noise doesn't blow. As I recall it, gotta hit the sound off. Oh, okay, yeah, that's good. Anyway, so that should be fine. All right, looks like I got some viewers rolling in. So I wasn't sure how fast people were going to show up for this, considering the fact that I haven't done Q&As for a while, so we're getting right back into it. So what I'm going to do is, like usual, I'll read the comments from the side and answer them. And I'm going to start with a question that was posted to me on Facebook because there's somebody who might not be able to join. The guy's name is Matt Wolf. He says, from your old videos, you do a 70-30 split in your protein blend. But now in your Beast Mode by Science book, you do a 50-35-15 split. So he's referring to, I used to do 70% pea protein, 30% rice protein. Now I do 50% soy, 35% pea, 15% rice. And he wants to know if this is for taste or if it's some information that I've gathered since. It's a combination of reasons. One, the 70-30 is fine for people who are allergic to soy for some reason. 70% pea isolate, 30% rice concentrate. The 50-35-15 split is for people who want something, who aren't allergic to soy first and foremost, but want something that blends a little better. Pea is kind of thick. So the 50-35-15 split, it mixes a little better because the soy is a little more mixable. It also has an extra gram of protein, but that's really the only thing behind it. There's nothing much else to it. It's just mixability, really, for those who aren't allergic to soy. So let me see what other questions are coming in. Okay, what do I think of a raw vegan diet? Asks one person. I said before that I do not advocate raw. I advocate a mixed diet. That's because some nutrients are better absorbed when they're cooked. Other nutrients are fine, that you can get them fine when they're raw. So for instance, like some vegetables and things like corn, tomatoes, these are better cooked. Some vegetables like broccoli, you can actually cook out some of the goitrogens. And things like mushrooms, for instance, have some toxins in them that are cooked out when you prepare them, heated, obviously. Then some things like nuts and seeds and fruits are fine raw. So I advocate a mixed diet. There is just too much of a risk, from what I've seen, for nutritional deficiencies eating a fully raw diet. So that's my take on that. The person asked that question twice. Well, there you go. There's your answer. What do I think of the fight? I didn't actually watch the fight, but I know the results. The results being that Conor McGregor lost. I'm not really surprised. Conor might have been an amateur boxer, from what I understand, but he's not a boxer. I mean, think of it this way. He's going against somebody who boxes all the time, practices all the time, is a champion in boxing, when he himself is not a boxer. He's basically, you could say he's like watered down his arsenal. I mean, he limited himself basically to fight Mayweather. So I didn't actually expect McGregor to win, to be honest. And that's not an attack on McGregor. That's not his practiced forte. So from what I understand, I mean, there's more about McGregor than what I know, but I didn't know he was like a professional boxer. I thought he was more of an amateur. Or something along those lines. So let's see here. I love bananas and I eat around 5 to 6 a day, mostly in smoothies with some blueberries. Is there an amount that would be considered too much? I've not seen that. I mean, there's people who think you can get potassium poisoning from too many bananas, but I mean, I haven't read anything like that myself. I mean, I just don't, I guess, I don't know what to say about that. I'm not a doctor, for one, so I don't know what the limits are for potassium off the top of my head. But I don't see how 5 or 6 a day is going to be harmful. From what I understand, I mean, I've done well with that, never had a problem. That's anecdote, but I don't see how 5 to 6 a day will be harmful. But I'm not a doctor, so maybe talk to your doctor. I don't know what sensitivities you have. Somebody says they're surprised Mayweather won the fight. I don't know. Mayweather is a boxer, so that's why I figured McGregor probably would lose, because he's challenging somebody in a sport that is their forte, when he is basically like a visitor for all intents and purposes. I mean, he excels in the MMA, so he's basically limited his arsenal taking on Mayweather, when Mayweather's arsenal is boxing. So it's, you know, there's an old saying, don't try to outbox a boxer. So raw sprouted based diet is superior. Sprouted lentil, grains, etc. has more nutrients than the cooked version. Well, what I'm trying to say is this. When you take corn, for instance, there are certain minerals that are better absorbed when it's cooked. Tomatoes, you have lycopene. Broccoli, you cook out the goitrogens. Tofu can cook out goitrogens as well. Not that most people have to worry about that unless they have a thyroid issue and or aren't taking their drugs for it. It shouldn't be an issue otherwise. I've not seen any research showing that it really is, but you can cook them out. Mushrooms, you can cook out the toxins that are in mushrooms. You know, yes, vitamin C is cooked out of a lot of these foods when you cook it, like tomatoes, for instance. But you can get vitamin C from other foods you would eat raw, like fruit. So that's the reasoning behind it. Have I ever used powerlifting rep ranges? Yeah, I mean, now and then. It's not really my focus. I mean, typically the heaviest I'll go is between 3 and 5 reps. And that's something you'll find in my new ebook, Beast Mode by Science. There actually is a phase that focuses on the 3 to 5 rep range for like a period of 4 weeks. Now, that's not the only thing it focuses on. It actually has some other tricks in there as well. But 3 to 5 rep range is the base rep range for the core moves in that particular phase. Do I like MMA? I don't have anything against it. I don't really watch it too much, but I don't have anything against it. I have respect for MMA fighters. I have respect for boxers. I have respect for anybody who chooses to better themselves and excel in something. So, what are my thoughts on laxagenin and epicatation? That's how you pronounce that, I guess. I've seen like animal research on this and some, you know, questionable human research, especially on laxagenin. I don't think it's worth the money to spend on it. Like laxagenin, for anybody who's not familiar, it's like a plant extract. I'm not sure what it's out of at the moment. I can't think off the top of my head, but apparently it increases protein synthesis by 200%. That's what they claim, which they try to market it to be similar to anabolic steroids. There's nothing in the natural world that's going to have the effect of anabolic steroids. Like, it's just not going to happen. You know, you're not going to be able to match a drug with these natural products. You know, so I would avoid spending, because laxagenin is very expensive. I would just not waste your money on it. The research isn't conclusive on it. And, you know, and when I've looked at people's feedback about it, like just your average anecdote, it hasn't been all too great. People are like, you know, they didn't get anything out of it. I think some people felt like they recovered faster, but they didn't notice any gains. So I wouldn't waste your money on laxagenin. Let's see here. Yes, I'm wearing I'm wearing a t-shirt today. I do wear t-shirts sometimes. I also do wear business shirts sometimes too. I change it up, but yeah, I usually wear a tank top. Wheat belly and grain brain. Any thoughts on, are grains really that bad for people without allergies? Not that I've seen. And the prevalence of gluten allergies, for instance, isn't as high as, you know, the popular media would have you believe. Like a lot of people who are on gluten-free diets or claim they're gluten intolerant, I think they're just falling into a fad. It's like, it's in their imagination. It isn't as prevalent as I think we're led to believe, from what I understand now. Again, I'm not a doctor and I haven't looked into the recent studies on it, but they have done, they did do some research where they took people who claimed that they had gluten intolerances and they tricked them. They gave them gluten food. They split them into 2 different groups. They gave one group gluten-free food and one group gluten food, and told them that it was the opposite of what they're receiving. So the people who were getting the gluten-free food were told that it had gluten. People who were getting the gluten food were told that it was gluten-free. And of course, as you'd expect, in most cases, the people who were on the that were getting gluten-free food but were told that it would have gluten, they acted like they were getting sick, and it was a farce. I think a lot of it was psychosomatic. So I don't think there's a big problem. I don't think people should be avoiding grains unless you literally have been diagnosed or have noticed yourself that you have consistent problems and you're being honest with yourself. It's not some fad. Anyway, let me see. People are happy to see me doing the Q&As again. I'm happy to be doing them. Let's see here. Video on lower back pain and how to treat it. Now, I'm not a physical therapist. For my own pains, I ice, I rest, I foam roll, and I have a little massage device. It's like an electronic device that it's kind of like EMG stickies that you stick on an area, and then you can turn up the dial of how much electricity, it's electroshock, into the area, and you can change like what kind of pattern you get, like whether it's like spurts or whether it's kind of like little needles, or it feels like somebody kind of kneading your back. And I'll use that for parts of my body. I don't know what the validity is science-wise to that electric device, but it helps me. Every time I've had an injury, it feels good at least. I mean, I don't know if it's doing anything, but it definitely feels good to use it whenever I've maybe pulled something or overused something. So for that much, it was only like $50 or something. So I thought it was kind of a worthwhile investment. It felt nice. So thoughts on Rich Piana. I feel bad for, I mean, I don't, whatever caused him to die, like I know he hit his head, but that's what I'm hearing. But whether, there was other factors involved, drug use, whatever, I feel bad for the guy. I haven't done a video on it because I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon, and I don't know if it's even really relevant to my channel or to my viewers, to be honest. But yeah, I feel terrible for the guy. He seemed like a very genuine person that wanted to help people. He put a lot of free information out there, whether it was good information or not. He did genuinely seem like he gave a shit. And from what I understand, he was a nice guy. So yeah, I feel bad for the guy. It definitely was not pleasant news to see. I was hoping he'd pull through. How much is the ebook in the UK? Wow, I don't know the conversion rate off the top of my head. Isn't it about, I guess since it's about $49.95 US, so it'll be like 25-ish UK, whatever it converts to. It's available. I mean, the system where you purchase it should be able to convert it, or your bank will convert it or PayPal will convert it, depending on what means you use to purchase it. What do I think of all the bashing on What the Health lately by the opposition? You know what? I haven't really honestly looked a lot into it. My friend Isaac of Ask Yourself is going to be doing a video, from what I understand. He's mentioned this. Apparently, they made the absurd statement that the food pyramid is racist or something retarded. It's very social justice warrior. So I've seen What the Health. I don't remember that particular part, but if there is that SJW influence, that needs to be called the fuck out. But information-wise on the health aspect, I thought it was a decent documentary. It might have been a bit biased, but you know what? I thought it was a decent documentary. I thought it was something that would be good for non-vegans to see, at least to break the ice a little bit, I suppose, to get them, thinking. But yeah, I haven't really kept up with the back and forth about the doco and what people are pissed about, that are not vegans. So yeah, we know things like, for instance, processed meats are linked to cancer, directly linked to cancer. We know that red meats have a strong correlation for causing cancer. The only thing we need is more research on it. But now, that being said, and I've discussed this in a previous video, there is a large body of research to show that heme iron specifically, which is found in a lot of animal products, a lot of meat products, causes colorectal cancer. We have a very large body of research to show that there is a significant link between heme iron consumption and colorectal cancer. So even if we just take the red meat aspect as correlation and not causation. There's still the heme iron aspect that is found in red meat. So it's not good for you, and that much about What the Health, where they're talking about how meat products aren't good for you, and that includes chicken and fish even. I don't disagree with that, but I will agree more research is certainly needed, on the matter. The more that we can prove something, or the closer we can get to making something more, definitive, is obviously going to be best. So there you go. That's my thoughts on that. General thoughts on ketogenic diet, both vegan and meat eating. Well, first of all, the vegan version of the diet has been shown to increase good cholesterol, drop body fat, improve markers of heart health in general, whereas the animal version has shown the opposite, actually. So, when it comes to vegan ketogenic or ketogenic diets in general, it's not a miracle diet. You still need to be in a caloric deficit. The only thing I personally find about it, and there is observational research, or I guess feedback-based research on this, where people have admitted to feeling more satiated on a ketogenic diet. So you might find that there's better diet adherence if you're ketogenic, because you'll have more satiety. But it's not magical. You're not gonna. I haven't seen the evidence of faster fat loss, just better adherence. That's really it about it. But I mean, if you're gonna do it, the vegan method appears to be healthier for your heart. So that's my thoughts on vegan ketogenic diet. It's not for everybody. Not everybody will like going that low carb, but for those who want to give it a try, it's another tool in the toolbox. So, why not? But do the vegan version, obviously. Who's stronger between you and Richard, if you know? I have no fucking idea. But I think Richard's doing a great job with his deadlifts, his bench press, I know he's been actively, I don't recall what his current numbers are, but I know he's been actively trying to build those numbers up. And that's awesome. People in the comments will make fun of him, for one reason or another, but they're just fucking dicks. Like, you can't, if somebody's actively trying to improve themselves, that is great, and not everyone's going to have elite level lifts, for fuck's sakes. In fact, even those that do had to work up to that level. And there is an element of genetics as well. Like, my worst lift is my bench press, because I have long fucking arms, and, that's just been my worst lift. Whereas deadlift has always been one of my better lifts. So, I mean, there's an element of genetics as well to consider. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. But I don't know who's stronger. But I think that Richard's doing awesome, and he's looking far more jacked than he had previously looked. Like, he literally is packing on some mass. Now he's diet strategy and his lifting strategy. Do I think canine unit is a form of exploitation of dogs? I mean, yeah, I think that using horses as labor animals is also exploitation. I mean, we're in a day and age now that we have machines that can replace animal labor, obviously. So there's not really a need for it necessarily. Yeah, I mean, so I do think it's a form of exploitation, but I don't know if we have a form of machines that can sniff out, like bloodhounds can sniff out for missing children, for instance. Like, if a child's gone missing or they're trying to find a body, bloodhounds, I don't think a machine can do that, So, yeah, it's kind of a sticky subject, It is a form of exploitation, but at the same time, are bloodhounds being harmed, for instance, doing what they naturally do, which is tracking? And is the benefit of finding a missing child or somebody who's potentially dead or has been missing for a while, does that outweigh having a dog come in and do it? It's a sticky situation. Now, horseback, like manual labor with horses and donkeys and whatever, we're past that. We have machines for that shit, and so I don't, and I hate horse and carriage rides. I wish that the mayor of New York would do away with that, for instance, it was this campaign promise, but he never fucking did. And you still find them around Central Park, which is just disgusting. That is, and they look so sad. And you know, horses are animals are very expressive in general, but you can really see the depression of those horses. They live a miserable life, and then when they go lame, they just kill them for glue or whatever. They put them down because they're no use anymore to the horse and carriage drivers. Do I like memes? Do I have a meme stash? Can you show us? Thanks. I do like memes. I have a bit of a meme stash. I can't show you while I'm doing a live stream, but one of my favorite memes that I have is I have this bird that's like, I don't know what kind of bird it is. It's just a big fucking bird, and it's looking directly in the eyes of this human, and for whatever reason, in her kitchen. And it's, I see what you did. I think it's a pretty funny meme. There's also a meme I use a lot. It's kind of perverse. It's this ostrich looking through a fence, really creepily, with like, it's like feathers are all messed up. It looks kind of creepy. It's a good meme to be creepy with. But yeah, I actually use that ostrich meme as the thumbnail for my gym sexual harassment video that I did about a year or 2 years ago, something like that, where I talked about a situation where a dude that wanted to grab my fucking nipples in the gym. You can watch that video. It's back in the collection of videos. But yeah, I love that meme. So I used it as I thought it was appropriate for the thumbnail. Favorite striking martial art? Well, I mean, I'm partial to karate because I've been involved in karate since I was young. I love karate. I think karate is better than taekwondo because you have a better mix of punches and kicks, so they don't just emphasize one or the other, and also they keep their hands up. You know, especially in full contact karate like Kyokushin, you keep your guard up. Taekwondo guys keep their hands down, and that's just asking for a head strike. Also, from my understanding, Taekwondo doesn't like to do front kicks like forward thrust kicks. But, you know, it's also known as a maigari in karate. Because they think that they're rude or something. Now, see, I don't do Taekwondo, but that's what I've been told, that it's like it's improper or rude or something to kick somebody like that. But it's a very effective kick. But I like karate. But that's not anything against Muay Thai. Muay Thai is great. You know, boxing is great for what it is, but boxing is limited. Muay Thai has the elements of boxing as well as kicking. Karate has punching and kicking. You know, I like when I think strike, I want to think a more well-rounded striking style where you can use all of your limbs, even your head, and hit people with your elbows, because your elbows are a very strong point in your body. Hey brother, I like your scientific approach. What are your thoughts on IGF-1? It is important for muscle growth. Obviously, bodybuilders inject it. I mean, yeah, it's important for growing, period. Like when a child is growing, IGF-1 plays a very important role. People demonize it, but yet it does play a role in the body. You know, and the thing is, people demonize it in reference to diet mostly, like with soy, for instance, like leucine spiking IGF-1. The thing about it is that unless you're fucking slamming soy like every half hour, it spikes and it goes back to baseline. The IGF-1 doesn't stay spiked. You know, that's so I think the fear over soy spiking IGF-1 is a bit misplaced, because it's like, for instance, your IGF-1, your growth hormone, and your testosterone are going to spike significantly from doing squats and leg presses, for instance. But it doesn't mean you're going to get cancer from doing squats and leg presses, because it spikes, and then within, like, I think 2 hours time, it's back to baseline again. And it's the same thing with food. There is a temporary transient spike, but it's back to baseline again. It's not like you're slamming soy every 30 minutes, you know, where you're just going to keep it elevated. So I don't really I'm not too worried about that. Now, if you're injecting IGF-1, yeah, you might cancer growth and what have you. All those drugs, testosterone, I mean, there's different degrees of safety from what I understand, but all of those drugs come with their serious risks. So if you're going to take them directly, exogenously, just be aware of what you're getting yourself into and the drawbacks, and be accepting of those, so that if they occur, you take responsibility for it. That's what I have to say on that. I personally choose not to touch them. I personally advise my viewers not to touch them, but that's because you can do it a natural way, and unless you're doing it for a sport or something where you have to be competitive because it is your job, I don't see the point in risking your health. You can look excellent without drugs. I was just about to lift heavy ass weight. Go for it. So as vegans, we produce less and are healthier, therefore, but how about the growth? I've not seen any evidence of vegans being able to grow any less muscle than non-vegans. In fact, they've done research on the hormone levels. Vegans have higher total testosterone now. There's a caveat. We have higher SHBG, which means that more of that's bound. But because of that, we just basically even out with meat eaters. So essentially, vegan and omnivore testosterone, the free testosterone levels are relatively the same. There's an insignificant difference. And that's going to be a muscle building hormone right there. And if you get enough protein in your diet and enough, healthy fats in your diet, there's not any reason why a vegan would grow less muscle. I mean, look at Barney Duplessis, for instance. He obviously takes steroids. That's not an attack on the guy, but he is a Mr. Universe, and he's a pro. He's clearly taking gear, and he looks as big and as strong and, cut up as the other guys who take gear who are not vegan. So yeah, I don't see any evidence. The only thing is there's more omnivore bodybuilders, obviously, because there's less vegans in the world. But give that time and that will change. But so people are like to say, well, you don't see any vegan Mr. Olympias. Well, it's not because it's not possible. It's because there's not enough vegan bodybuilders. There's not enough vegans yet. It's a matter of numbers in that case, not a matter of can you or can't you. I don't see any reason why a vegan couldn't be a Mr. Olympia if they so desired and had the genetics, competed and got there. We already have vegans in the IFBB, just a matter of time. Because keep that in mind, genetics play a big role. There are some guys like Bob Paris, for instance, I believe he was in the 80s, who had a fantastic physique, but he, despite having excellent genetics, he just wasn't what the judges were looking for at the time. Mass monsters were kind of coming in, I believe, at that point in time. That was about the time where Lee Haney was tapering out, and you got your Dorian Yateses coming in. So yeah, I mean, it's also a matter of what the aesthetic preference is at the time too. Anyway, how many push-ups can I do? I don't typically do push-ups in the beginning of my workout. I like to do them either supersetted with flies or presses, or at the end of the workout to burn out. In which case, because I'm freaking tapped out at that point in time, usually between 12 and 30, somewhere between those, depending on how tapped out I am. But without, probably, I would assume probably like 50 to 100 or something if I was not tapped out. I don't know if I was fresh. I never tried. I prefer to go in and do the big lifts like your bench press, your dumbbell press, those kinds of things first for my chest. And I use things like dips a lot of the time to tap the muscle out, to completely waste it when there's just nothing left to give. It's body weight at that point, and that's pretty much all I have left to give is body weight. Have I watched Clarence Kennedy yet? Yes, I have. Clarence Kennedy is awesome. More power to him doing Olympic lifting as a vegan. That's awesome. How bad do I think coconut oil is concerning cholesterol? It's always been hyped as the healthiest oil out there. I'm kind of on the fence now. There was a recent study by the American Heart Association elaborated that saturated fat consumption, I guess high saturated fat consumption, will still raise your cholesterol. So even as vegans, if we are taking in things like coconut oil or coconuts with high amounts of saturated fat, we are still putting ourselves at risk for high cholesterol, high dietary cholesterol. Now, yes, coconut oil also raises HDL, but it also raises LDL. So my advice is, saturated fat is not necessarily, it's not a requirement in your diet for health. You can get away with, I think, up to 7 grams a day of saturated fat. So, it's okay to have some, use some coconut oil, but don't blast it, don't overdo it. because there might be a chance that you might skyrocket your cholesterol. Just keep that in mind. But that doesn't mean fear fat. Eat healthy fats. Eat flax seeds. Get algae oil for your DHA. Chia seeds are great. Hemp seeds are great. Things like that. Avocados are awesome. Coconut oil, perhaps on your salad, is good too. I mean, not coconut oil, but olive oil on your salad is kind of cool too. Just a little drizzle or something. These are things that you can, keep it moderate. Don't overdo it. But yeah, use oil now and then, I suppose, if you like the taste of it. But just get it from Whole Foods where you possibly can, first and foremost. So anyway, is saving Western civilization just as important as saving the animals? That's a difficult question. It's kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg kind of question. The reason why saving Western civilization is important is, let's be frank, if we let Islam take over, the animals aren't going to be treated very fucking well. I mean, that compassion is in some ways a signpost or a strong element of Western civilization. And yeah, I don't think it would bode well for animals. I mean, look how they treat animals, for instance, in China. Yeah, I don't think that losing our hold in Western civ and our values is going to be good for the animals. So I think they kind of go hand in hand in some ways. Take care of the animals on a vegan level, yes. Do your part. That's such an easy thing for you to do. But protecting our values in Western civilization is also important for the animals on a broader spectrum. So they kind of go hand in hand, in my opinion. How to cure acne? I eat a vegan diet with no junk food and I drink lots of water. Acne still won't go away. I'm not a doctor. I don't know what to advise on that. I know people who just simply have acne for genetic reasons, and some things seem to spike their acne, but there's nothing that seems to make it really go away. I would speak to your doctor about that. That's not something I would know how to advise on, to be honest with you. I mean, this might be giving you some wrong advice here, but it's my understanding that like a high-fat diet can cause some people to break out too. So maybe keep your fat more to a minimum, like 20% of your calories, and see if that has an effect. I don't know what else to say. I'm not, I don't know how well you wash your face. That might even make it worse. I'm not a doctor. Talk to your doctor about it. What is my thought on people eating raw meat while doing keto? I think that's ridiculous. I think that's just, I think that eating meat is not healthy to begin with. And raw meat, fuck, like you can get worms and parasites and shit from that. Like that's just, there's these creepy videos of people taking worms out of someone's intestines in surgery, and people who like devour a lot of red meat, and that might even be from cooked, but probably not well cooked. That's nasty. I just, yeah. I don't know if that's referencing spherage or not, but spherage, I think there might be something mentally wrong with this guy. What's the brand of moisturizer that I use? Amy asks. I use a number of them. I use a Jason Vitamin E moisturizer. It's really kind of thick, but it's for when I've really dried out or something. It's great for winter. I also use a Alba Organics moisturizing SPF lotion when I'm going to be in the sun. And yes, when I'm in front of a computer, even though I don't think computers emit UV rays, but just to be safe, because I have very, very sensitive skin. I burn really easily. And then, another one I use is Avalon Organics, a vitamin C moisturizer. I use that. I also have an eye cream that I use. I got a lot of this information from an ex that I was with a long time ago. I was living overseas, and my skin was getting damaged from the sun, and I was advised, try this and try that, and it actually reversed a lot of the aging that had begun happening because of the sun. So, and I kept with it, and people mistake me for 10 years younger than what I am, sometimes a little more than that. In fact, I was just out with a friend who's 26, if I'm not mistaken, and his girlfriend is 24. He might be watching this right now. He's actually a friend of mine on Facebook, a big Ukrainian guy. And we were hanging out, and he said to his girlfriend, you know, that you didn't realize this guy is like 36. And she's like, no, get the fuck out of town. You know, I look younger than him, and he's 10 years younger than me. But that, like, it's really about taking care of yourself, eating well, exercising. All of this can go a long way in making you healthier and look better. So anyway, oh boy. A lot of people are asking questions about Tara. I don't know how much she wants me to talk about her during the Q&A, so I'm going to leave her out of the Q&A. Somebody says Rich Piana had an overdose, apparently. I saw Vegan Gains video on him recently. Yeah, I've heard they found vials of testosterone. I heard that he, you know, then Greg Valentino said he was doing something in his house that anybody could be doing and fell down and busted his head. Look, I don't know. Ultimately, he's passed on, and that is sad. However, it may have happened. It was really sad to find that out, because the guy seems like a genuinely good person. He didn't come across as a piece of shit. He seemed very genuine. He gave a lot of, like I said, a lot of advice out to people for free. And, you know, it might not be the best advice, because we're not all on steroids, but it came from a good place, I suppose. He was trying to help people, like his 8-hour arm workout, which is absolutely absurd for a natural lifter. The fact that Mike O'Hearn could stand one of that 2-hour arm workout they did was just, begs the question. It makes you wonder if Mike O'Hearn's natural, if you even had to wonder that in the first place, that he was able to keep up with him. But yeah, I feel sorry for Rich and his family. I know that sounds very cliche, but I genuinely do. It wasn't nice news to see. It wasn't nice. It's not nice news when anyone passes away, but he seemed like such a nice guy. Anyway, yeah, it's unfortunate. Opinion on focusing on weighted calisthenics versus squats to get stronger and gain muscle. Do both. I don't see any reason why you can't do both. You can't incorporate both into your workout. In fact, I do. Can you get enough B12 with fortified foods? Yeah, you can. The question is, can you absorb it well enough? Is probably the best question. I recommend taking a good, I use a sublingual liquid B12. It's a cyanocobalamin base. Hold it under my tongue 30 seconds every morning. Tastes like cherries. I guess it's kind of a cherry flavor. And then I swallow it for 30 seconds, and that's got an absurd amount of vitamin B12. I also get it probably from my multivitamin, which I take just for good measure. I have a vegan multi by Diva. DEVA is the brand. Yeah, so I mean, those are two ways I get, and I probably get some from Fortified Foods now and then too. There's a new mock meat that I'm using because I can't find Beyond Meat now in New York for whatever reason. That's like they haven't stocked it, at least in Whole Foods. So I've been using this brand called Soul Cuisine, S-O-L Cuisine. It looks like a ripoff of Beyond Meat, to be honest with you, the chicken strips. Profile of vitamins than Beyond Meat did. So, but I'm using that now. It's actually got a better macro profile too. Check it out if you can. It's called Soul Cuisine, and you get these big freaking bags for like $10. It's got like 8 servings in it, so they're pretty hefty. 6 bags of those can last me a couple weeks. Let's see here. Let's see what else there is. Hammering Hank not here. Yeah, I don't think Hammering Hank, one of my viewers, knew that this Q&A was happening. As I do more of these, I'm sure he'll get the hang of it again. What is your view on eating a few days or a whole week only raw? I don't agree with raw only diets. I say mix it up. Eat your fruits, your nuts and seeds raw. Cook your vegetables. Cook tofu and things like that. I advocate a mixed diet. My thoughts on people eating raw meat, I answered this before, it's nasty. What's my favorite exercise? Wow, that's a tough one. Deadlift, maybe? Because it hits pretty much everything just in some way. I like the deadlift even more than the squat. I think the deadlift, in my opinion, is even a king over the squat. That's just my opinion. I think that it's more there's more muscle activation than even in a squat. So yeah, I mean, but I guess you could break it down by body part. Like I have favorite exercises for every body part, really. But that's going to be a longer list. How much can I deadlift? Last I checked, it was like 500, which is not elite or anything like that. But that was for like, 5-ish, 6 reps. I could get like 500. Again, that's not very elite. And I don't shoot for maxes a lot. Like mostly I do phases of strength, as you'll see in Beast Mode by Science. I prescribe phases of strength with lots of phases of kinds of hypertrophy. Like 8 to 12 reps with high rep sets here and there. Sometimes phases of nothing but high pump reps and supersets and things like that. And then, that's why I set the book up the way it does, because I based it on the research. Because my real goal is to grow. Getting strong is part of growing, obviously, too. But I'm not trying to compete in strength. I want to look good. I want to perform well. I kind of want the best of all worlds without focusing solely on strength. So that's my thoughts on that. VG is putting on more muscle these days because he got away from that low protein bullshit. I would agree with that. Yeah. I mean, for vegans, around 1 gram per pound of lean body weight is optimal. It really is. So, and that's based on a number of papers I've seen, and coaches' recommendations based on their own clients. Taking the International Society of Sports Nutrition and adding 10% on top of their range for vegans seems to be optimal. So, on the top end of the range, add 10% and you get about 1 gram per pound of body weight, which, I think is completely reasonable. It's not a hell of a lot. It's reasonable. And think about it, per pound of lean body weight. So you got to factor out your fat mass. So like, if you may weigh 210 pounds and maybe you only have 160 pounds of lean muscle, so eat 160 grams of protein. How much am I currently weighing, Corey? I'm kind of steady around the 200 range. That's where I've been kind of sitting steady. I've actually been testing out a new program of mine. So I've been eating around maintenance for the last like 4 weeks so far. I plan to, get back into cutting again, but I've been eating around maintenance to see how it affects this new program idea that I have that I'm working on. It's for arms. I'm trying to build an arm program. I've been getting a lot of requests from people who want a arm priority program. So for people who are advanced that have weak arms. And I've been eating more on maintenance for that. So I don't get fucking fat, but at the same time, it's enough that I can put a little muscle on and see how it goes. Have I ever watched Netflix shows like Daredevil or Defenders? No, I don't really watch a lot of shows. Let's see here. What are my thoughts on animal testing? I don't like it, but me not liking something's not going to make it go away. I especially don't like, animal testing where they burn the animal's skin because they're trying harsh chemicals out and seeing how skin reacts to them. That's some of the stuff they do with makeup to rodents is disgusting. And that I don't like any animal testing, but that's some of the most heinous animal testing. Or when they're injecting them with drugs to see what the side effects are. It's fucked up. Let's see here. You should do a video on testosterone boosting foods like sorghum and quinoa. Am I pronouncing that sorghum? I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that properly. I mean, there's a lot of foods that can boost testosterone like modestly, but you're not going to get steroid-like effects from food. But it's not to say that it's useless to eat foods that are going to optimize your testosterone, because the more optimized you are, just the better you're going to feel, the better you're going to perform. Even if you can't build muscle like a Mr. Olympia, you're going to feel better. Your sex drive is going to be better. You're going to be happier. Your mood will be better. So it is pertinent to eat foods that are good for your hormones. Did I hear about John Jones testing positive for PED again? No, I didn't hear about that. Is there a species-specific diet for us based on evolution? People defend meat by saying that we evolved to do so, but there doesn't appear to be any actual physiological adaptations to eating meat. Now, here's the thing. We can eat meat. We have been doing it for a long time. We can process it, but it doesn't mean we should, because there's negative consequences to consuming a lot of these products. I don't know if there's a specific diet that's best for our species. I'm not going to jump out there and say we're frugivores either, like the vegans like. A lot of vegans like to argue. I think that we're healthier eating a vegan diet, from what I have noticed. I mean, from the research at least, it's leading to better, mortality rates. We're improving our lifespan, reducing cancers, etc. But I think we need more research to see what the optimal diet is for human beings. But I think that veganism is a good way to go. Definitely, from the research that I'm seeing, it just seems all around healthier. Anyway, is bodybuilding with little cardio bad for the heart? You need to work your heart. Your heart's a muscle as well. Take care of your heart. So do cardio, even if it's an activity like swimming or intervals with a heavy bag. Anything that's going to get your heart pumping, work on your heart. It's healthy for you. What do I think of the methionine content of lentils and legumes? Are we more at risk of hormone cancer? And what do you think of vegans' increased risk of colorectal cancer? I've not heard of any of that. In fact, cancer rate amongst vegans seems to be quite low. Like, I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it seems to be cut compared to omnivores. Does plant protein raise IGF-1 levels, and why does McDougall recommend low-fat diets? McDougall's under the impression that the fat you eat is the fat you wear. I believe that's the quote he uses. And while fat is easier to store as fat because it is very calorically dense, and it doesn't have processes like de novo lipogenesis for carbohydrates, which is a difficult process, an expensive process for the body to go through. And protein is also the most thermogenic macronutrient. It's frankly almost impossible to put it on as fat. They've done research with protein where they've taken up to 4 grams per kilogram of body weight, which is like 2.2 grams per pound or something. And they found that it doesn't cause, even when the surplus is caused by protein consumption, it doesn't lead to fat gain. And so that's an interesting thing to think about. Probably why you see a lot of cutting diets with higher protein. One, it's muscle sparing, and two, it's thermogenic, and it's also satiating. But yeah, that's why McDougall doesn't like fat, because he thinks that it goes right to fat. But really, that's a matter of like surplus, really. If you're eating a lot of fat and you're in a surplus, yeah, you're going to gain weight. And it's easier to put on fat as body fat. But I think he over-demonizes it. As for a plant protein raising IGF-1, yes, soy has high levels of leucine. But as I was mentioning earlier, it's going to spike, and then it's going to taper back down to baseline. You don't have to worry about, unless you're slamming soy, like I said, every half hour and just keeping those levels constantly spiked. I don't see why you have to worry about IGF-1 and cancer from soy consumption. Got some kind of gnat flying around in here. Do I do hip thrusts? I'm about to start doing hip thrusts, actually. I've been recommended to do them to build my butt more, because squats just don't cut it. Lunges are good, but hip thrusts are like the king for building a butt, and women do look at the butt on a guy. So, hey, don't neglect your glutes, guys. It is a very strong muscle. Everyone says how high cholesterol isn't an issue. It doesn't actually cause heart disease. That's based on research that had a very poor controls. Dietary consumption of cholesterol does spike cholesterol, but after a certain point, it just kind of tapers off. If you already have high cholesterol, it's not going to get any higher, from what I understand. Nuts are also good. Yep. let's see here. Everyone's going on about how the West treats animals better and how halal farms treat them like shit. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Without the compassion of Western civilization and our values, animals will suffer. They will suffer. So yeah, I think it's hand in hand, those two, as I was mentioning earlier. You do any martial arts? Yes, I do. Karate. 2 forms of karate, and I've done taijutsu as well. I tried Muay Thai out for like a week or two. It was like back in 2010, maybe. It was maybe 11. I can't remember anymore. I gave it a try, but it just didn't appeal to me. Karate is what I've stuck with. Any brain food for memorization? Not off the top of my head I can think about. There are some herbs that apparently help with that. Creatine has been shown, supplementation of creatine has been shown to improve memory and reaction time in vegans and vegetarians, but not so much in meat eaters. And that may very well be because meat eaters get a lot of creatine from red meat. So by supplementing it, we can kind of meet their levels, but we're going to get benefits they don't get because they're already getting a lot of it from red meat consumption. That's my theory. So yeah, if you're interested in, you know, maybe supplement a little creatine every day, like 2.5 grams of creatine a day, you might find improves your memory. How many grams of protein per pound of body weight do you need to build muscle, and how many calories do you need, and how often should you increase them to progress? These are a lot of very specific questions. There are formulas. Actually, in my book, Beast Mode by Science, I actually talk about in detail all of the formulas, how to monitor, how to increase, when to increase, etc. But to answer your more simple question, how many grams of protein per pound of body weight? 1 gram per pound of lean body weight per day seems to be the most optimal for vegans. That's what I have found in the research. So I hear that the fortified calcium in soy milk can be harmful. I have been having troubles getting enough calcium. I try to eat 5 cups of kale in my shake, but will that give me stones? Drink a lot of water. From my understanding, that helps flush some of the oxalates, and it can also help you with, you know, potential kidney stones too. Is drinking a lot of water. Keep yourself hydrated. Now, don't overdo water. You can get toxicity from too much water as well, but drink enough water. There are guidelines per day for water that, you know, are out there by medical organizations. But yeah, I've heard that supplementing with calcium can lead to medical problems. I can't remember if it was heart disease or what it was, but they advise you get calcium from diet. You know, so eat foods that are rich in calcium. Soy is rich in calcium. Leafy greens are rich in calcium. Those are 2 off the top of my head. I think nuts and seeds and legumes in general are very rich in calcium. There's a lot of sources of calcium out there, so it is best you try to achieve it from whole foods. Can I make a video about my shampoos, toothpaste, and stuff like that? Yeah, I could do that. I could do a video about that. I've done videos on other body care products. I could definitely do a video on shampoos and toothpaste. Yeah. What do you think of CoQ10 and PQQ as supplements? And do vegans need to supplement creatine, taurine, carnitine, and carnosine? CoQ10 and PQQ appears to help with longevity. So it might be worth supplementing. The research seems to be favorable to improving telomere length, slowing the signs of aging and reducing them, in fact, as well as improving longevity. So you can find vegan PQQ and what I think is pronounced polyequinine. Maybe I'm getting that wrong. And CoQ10 supplements out there, and so you can experiment and see how you feel. As for creatine, I think that yes, vegans should supplement creatine. You don't have to go overboard with it, but it might help your memory. Even if you're not a lifter, it might help your memory and your reaction times. Taurine, I don't really, you know, if you're feeding your cat or dog a vegan diet, yeah, taurine is going to be an important thing to supplement. But we can create taurine from other amino acids in our diet. So your taurine needs can be met by your body producing it. So, you know, cats and dogs, I don't believe can produce taurine. They actually have to get it. But we can produce it from other amino acids. Carnitine, I've seen no benefit to supplementing carnitine unless you find yourself having a serious problem losing weight because you are carnitine deficient. Again, your body can produce carnitine from other amino acids that you take in. It won't be the rate, obviously, that meat eaters get it, but if you think you're having problems stagnating with weight loss because your carnitine levels might be too low for your goals, you might consider supplementing, but understand that it will only work to a point. Carnitine consumption will, you know, it's like with any of these natural supplements, it optimizes. It doesn't really boost, it optimizes. It boosts it if it's low, but the better word is optimized, because it brings it to where it should be. And your results to where they should be. Now, there's some studies on carnitine, for instance, that are interesting. There was at least a couple studies that show that it opens receptor sites to hormones on muscle cells. So, for instance, if your test is higher or optimized by diet or what have you, you might be able to actually get more of it into your muscle cells through carnitine consumption. That's what a couple studies I've seen show, but I don't know how conclusive that is, but it's worth noting. It's something worth noting. And carnitine isn't all that expensive, really. You can find vegan carnitine supplements. They do exist. And the same with carnosine. Your body can produce this, again, from other amino acids you're taking in. So, but it's a matter of, like, are you getting enough for some goal that you might have, you know? So, do we need to eat heme iron? I hear it's very harmful. No, we can get non-heme iron. It doesn't absorb. It's really weird. From what I've seen, heme iron and non-heme iron have very large ranges of absorption. Even heme iron can be really poor to absorb or be really decent to absorb. And the same thing with non-heme. It can be really shit poor, or it can be somewhat decent. And the ranges aren't all that disparate when you look at the bottom and top end. It's by a few points or percentage points. Now, however, if somebody genetically absorbs heme iron at a really high rate but non-heme at a lower rate, then you might have an issue because of that range. It depends on where you fall in that range for each one. I would just make sure you're getting enough non-heme iron as a vegan, you know, and if you need to supplement. But I don't supplement with iron. I only know, I think, one girl who does, because she has an issue with menstruating and bleeding out. She expels way too much iron, so she needs it for her doctor, something medical. Her doctor tells her to supplement, and she doesn't eat meat. So I do know one girl that has that condition. But yeah, I mean, take it condition to condition basis. Yeah, you know, talk with your doctor, see if you have a deficiency in something, because you can toxify yourself with iron really quickly. And heme iron has been linked to colorectal cancer. Anyway, let's see here. I'm going to have to wrap this up. I'm coming to the 1 hour mark, and my computer can't handle any more of this shit. And literally, my plug and my outlet are on the other side of the room. It's you know, at my desk setup, which I don't like filming at because the light is shit as fuck. Anyway, so I'll answer one more question. Is soy milk harmful? No, it's not harmful. I mean, if you have an allergy to it, yeah, that's going to cause some harm. But inherently, soy milk is not harmful. It's not going to hurt your hormones, again, unless you're allergic or something. I wouldn't worry about soy products in general. And I've done so many videos on soy, you can look those up. Anyway, so I'm going to wrap up. I'm not sure if I'll do these every week or every other week. I'm going to see how things go. You know, and we'll take it from there and look at my schedule as well. But I would like to do these Q&As more often. They're a lot of fun. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to check out my ebook, Beast Mode by Science. There's already been people who have purchased it who really like it, giving good feedback on it. And I'll see you guys around. Take care.